Okay, this time I'm going to do one more sample for these potential customers still. But I'll always use them in the future if they don't pan out here anyway. So it's just good to learn some of this stuff. I wanted to go with an all black base, just the prime coat that I get from Diamond Coat. But anyway, just kind of wanted to go through the whole procedure this time. I've been asked a lot of questions about just different things that I haven't explained. I just kind of skim over. So this I'm going to do this video, probably be the only one that's going to be, I'll just probably video the whole thing, and we might cut a little bit out of it because some of this is kind of boring. But I'll do a fairly complete video on this one, just trying to show everybody what I've learned so far. Even it'll be a good video for me to go back and remind myself of things too, because you just kind of start putting some things off. Okay, like right now, with every board, I'm not super particular with anything that's on the board. But this is a 1/4 inch MDF board, and it's a 12 by 16. You can get it at any Home Depot, whatever. But well, sometimes you've got to special order it. It is a little bit harder to find, but this is what I like to use. So what I'm doing so far is I've got the MDF board painted with just a indoor-outdoor paint in a black, and I just got enough paint on it that you don't see the wood really glaring through. This is going to be a black sample, so if my color happens to be a little bit thin, I don't want that brown shining through. So just get enough to break that color, because you don't want to get too much onto it, because the epoxy actually sticks to wood better than paint does. So leave that paint as thin as you can, and you'll still be able to feel the texture in it. And so that epoxy will grab that texture, and you'll never get it off of this board. So anyway, that's kind of what I start with. I do have some spots in here where there was something on the board when it got painted, whatever. But if you're doing a countertop, make sure you clean it really well before you start putting anything on it, because anything on that is going to make a design that you may or may not end up wanting. So anyway, just clean everything up as well as you can. Make sure it's good and dry, and then you can start doing your sample. So anyway, what I do for this size of board, I use 12 ounces of the epoxy. This is a 1-to-1 epoxy. So what I've done here is I've just set a cup that when I pour it, it'll equal 6 and 12 ounces. We start with a hardener, pour 6 ounces of that, and it's kind of messy stuff, and this never sets up by itself. So I try to keep everything a little bit clean. It just keeps everything from getting real messy. But anyway, I use these clear cups. I get them from Sam's. They're 16-ounce clear cups. I just do it this way. It just saves some money. With as much practicing as I've been doing, I've been mixing quite a bit of this stuff. So I just made it a little cheaper way to do it. I still get my 12 ounces 1-to-1, and I've only used the plastic cup. And you can go through quite a few if you're doing much of this, so it ends up adding up. I'm just cheap, so that's what I choose to do. I'll even reuse sticks at times. If they're something I can cut off or reuse, I do. So what our goal is here is we're mixing this for 3 minutes, and don't set yourself short. I've been doing this enough that there's another way I use. It's once it starts clearing up, you'll still see swirls in it until it's completely mixed up. So that's how I do it now. I just watch what it looks like. But normally, if you'll just mix constantly, not fast, do that for 3 minutes. Scraping your sides. You're not in a hurry to do this. I mean, actually, this is kind of some downtime that you can use to, you know, think about what you're doing, try to keep it straight in your head, and you know, we don't always need to be in a hurry. So if you get a chance, slow down a little bit. More time you make, see, pushing this back and forth with that stick, it's mixing that. It's up on the sides of the cup. You know, on a countertop, you're not going to do this, but you know, we use power tools and whatnot to do countertops, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, you know, if you're sitting around making a sample, there's no sense in rushing it, because if you're working on a board this small and you're working toward a countertop look, which is what I usually like to try to do, otherwise I just can't replicate it. You know, I'm a countertop person, I'm not an artist, so I'm just looking for different designs that I can do in, you know, within an hour. You know, if you've got about an hour with this stuff to get it on, get it colored, and once it stops moving, it stops moving, and you shouldn't do anything else to it. So, but with this size of board, we're mixing a cupful. We're not mixing gallons. So, just take your time. Make sure it's mixed up good. I mean, you don't want your sample sticky. So, you know, and if you don't get this completely mixed up, it is sticky. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's still a few swirl marks in there. You can just move your stick back and forth. You'll see them. If you see them, keep stirring. But that, again, if you time yourself 3 minutes, you're in pretty good shape. So sometimes, you know, it may less or more I may go, but I just watch for those swirls. So I'm pretty well mixed up here, so I'm not seeing much in there now. There's a little bit more. I'll stir a little bit more. So just don't cut this part short. It doesn't look like it, but it is important for your whole project. Normally, if I'm sitting here taking this much time to keep my stick scraped and, you know, looking for swirls and all that, I'm not too worried about a sticky spot. But you're not going to sit around when you're doing a countertop and do that, you know. So time yourself definitely when you're doing countertops or anything. They've got it right on their packaging how long it should be mixed, and they're really close. Okay, that looks much better, good and clear, no swirl marks. Haven't planned this project out a whole lot, other than I want it to resemble what I did on the last one. It was just like this one, with starting with a black prime coat base. We'll let that set for just a little bit, try to get into the middle working order of the epoxy. There's a point where you'll hold your project, it won't run off as bad. Between that and things just not flowing at all for you. So you'll figure out your timing, but there is a little bit of timing to it. So normally we want our product 70-75 degrees, your working area 70 to 80 degrees, I believe. I'm still finding swirl marks. It must be from my stick. So you know, on a countertop, anything that's important to you, at this point, pour it into another container. Get rid of this stick in this container. Start with fresh containers, sticks, mixing paddles, whatever you're using. Then add your color. Then you're in pretty good shape. You won't find any unmixed. But as long as you're using the same stick and same cup, you'll probably be able to see swirl marks in there. So that tells you that you've got to switch containers if it's on something that really matters. So right now I'm going to grab some Prime Coat Black. And this is another color from Countertop Epoxy. So far this is what I like to use. I haven't used everything, all the different products, but I have experimented with a couple different ones, and I just wasn't very happy with them. So I'm just going to stick with Levi's products. I really like them. Until somebody proves me wrong, that I think I'll stick with Levi's products. So we don't need a lot in a little sample like this. Make sure you get enough. I painted my board black, so I don't need a lot of color in there. That's probably plenty. This container here should do about 2 gallons. If your substrate's light, I would go a little bit more than that, but that should do it if you're going down to a light color, which I am. So we'll get this mixed up. Again, they recommend 3 minutes stir time again once you stir your color in, and I just kind of estimate it. So once I feel the colors completely mixed, I don't really time the step, but it is recommended. Again, go ahead and push it around from both sides of your stick. Try to get that uncolored epoxy down in there also. You just pay a little bit of attention to that. It definitely will, if you don't pay any attention to that, it'll change some things. So you can still see the division line on the color and where the epoxy's not mixed. So pay attention to that. Don't get it in your project. I wouldn't go scrape this stick on even this sample board, because I know it'll leave a bad spot in it. Oh, again, I always just leave a little bit in the container, unless I'm not thinking, which that's happened once or twice. But, just get it poured on. Leave a little bit in the container. You just never know. It works out. More often than not, you could use that little bit somewhere. So just make sure you have enough on your piece and leave the rest aside. Whichever side it's running off first, just start there, but just start pushing it around a little bit. A lot of people use brushes here. I just got to where if I'm just pushing it around, I can do it just as fast with my gloves, and it only costs me about 5 cents for those, so I'm just cheap. So just get it spread out pretty even, then start come in here and get your edges wet. Normally, on a sample board, you can either tear or you can't, but I just stay in the habit of it because I want to remember my edges. Your edges are really important when you start doing projects, and so you can, at this point, you should have it pretty well spread out evenly. So now you can just kind of feel around in it. You'll definitely know if you've got a thin spot. You can feel it through these little gloves. So that's kind of why I like to use them. Between I'm cheap and I just prefer to do it that way. But on a countertop, normally I would use a roller. There's a procedure you can use there to get it nice and even on a larger area. You spend too much time playing with your hands on something like that. So if you want to practice with a brush, practice with a brush. It really doesn't matter. So pop a few of the bubbles that way. I'll come back. I'll throw a little heat on it. I'm just going to let it set at this point. I'll probably come back in 15 minutes and do it again. I guess right now I could explain also some of the temperature stuff. We've got a little infrared temp gun. We're at 76.7 right now. The room's at about 74. Pretty damn nice in here. Again, I went over the that once before, but just make sure you're between 70 and 80 degrees. You'll be fine right in there. And but your temperatures do matter. As things get hot, they thin out, but cure faster. If it's cold, it stays kind of thick, but takes longer to cure. So you just got to play with those two techniques to see how fast you want something to set up, or how fast you want it to run, or whatever, to make what you're doing work the way you want it to. So I usually keep track of a few of my temperatures, and other than that, you don't have to pay a lot of attention to it. In fact, some of these I'll do, and I'll even heat them up to about 100 degrees just to get a little more flow right at the end. Once I'm done with a lot of other things, just to let something flow for a couple of minutes, and then it'll set up pretty quickly then. But anyway, you'll figure out some of the timing. And still letting the alcohol evaporate. I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit here, but all I'll do while we're gone is, once this alcohol evaporates, I'll come back and hit it with a torch once, and I'll even show that at some point here. But for a few minutes, I'm just letting the air bubbles come up through there. So you don't want to rush into your project too much unless you want those air bubbles to actually make design in your piece. So depending on what you want to do, but I usually like to take all the air bubbles out first and then work from there. Okay, what I'm doing here, did just what I said, did some alcohol, and then just got done putting some heat on it. Got it to about 95 degrees. So it's still pretty liquid. That'll speed the setting time up. So I've got to kind of be thinking of what I'm going to do here pretty soon. Usually if these tack just a little bit longer, about 3 seconds, it's about ready. So this one's awfully liquid yet. Just let it set for a while. I did get it pretty warm. It should be cooling some back off. About 83 now. So I'm going to let it cool back down to about room temperature, and then by that time I'll figure out exactly what I'm doing here. But what I'm going for is that last sample I did of the silver on black. I really liked it, but it was still a little too dark for what I think their house lends to. So I'm going to try to, I'm probably going to do about a 100% coverage, and then break it up with alcohol, and then I may even go more than that. I'll just kind of adjust it from there. I'm just going to use the silver, metallic silver. This is kind of a light color to be trying to cover over black, so it does take more product to do this. So I would order just a little bit more. Well, it's not going to take jugs, so you know, you fill up a jug like this. I would probably mix it fairly stout, maybe 4 tablespoons in this jug. Should do more than a counter, but it does take quite a bit when you're doing these two colors. So I'm at about low 80s. The room's 74, I think it was. So I'm just going to start putting my silver on, let the alcohol evaporate, put a little more on until I get to a point where I like it, I guess. So we can start now. It's still a little bit early, but as slow as this alcohol is going to go on, and when I put it on at this point, it's going to sink to the bottom more, so it's going to give us some more depth. So it really doesn't hurt to put some on at this point. Just don't get too crazy out here. You can always add, but you can't take away. So you know, just kind of, that's probably plenty at one time. Now just let that alcohol evaporate and we can come out and put some more on. Don't get too excited about it, but that's why this is a good countertop color to do, is you can get a lot of character out of it, but it really doesn't it'll take you less than 5 minutes to color this countertop. You know, you walk by and you do your spraying, you go around the room, you get back to the other end. By that time the alcohol's close to being evaporated. You don't have to wait on it. Start spraying around the rest of the room again. It's as fast as doing this sample. So, and that's my whole goal here, is to do things that I wouldn't have time to do. You know, I don't want to go out to a job and not have time to do it. So anything I'm going for is a countertop. So I've got a plan for, can I do this to the whole countertop before I'm out of time? So that's what I'm going for. Some people lie more, you know, more on the art side or whatever, and that's fun too, but that's not what I'm looking for. But right now I'm getting some really cool effects. I know a lot of people say, you know, just stop there, but it's still extremely dark, and we'll keep carrying those effects out and getting lighter and lighter. But I just want to show you a little bit of, as we go through. Right in there you can still see alcohol evaporating. That's all your metallics floating around in there. Really hard to control anything at that point. Just let the alcohol evaporate and you work it after that. So if you do anything right now, it gives it kind of a weird look. Just let it do it naturally, and then come back and push it around if you want to, or add more color, which is what I'm going to do. You can blow on it. You can get that alcohol to evaporate a lot faster if you're in a hurry. I always seem to be in a hurry to get everything done. Okay, all the alcohol's gone. Got a really cool effect right now, but not near what we're going to go for. So we'll do a little bit more. Always shake this up, especially when you start. Practice on the side over here. There's been more than one time I've had a string going out across something that I wanted to do like this, and it just ruins the whole original idea. So just, my sprayer's a little goofy. So just add a little more. I'm going to want more up here, so I can add a little more up there too. We'll start with that. Let that alcohol evaporate. We'll just keep repeating this process until we get it as light as we want it. In fact, I want this much lighter than this, so I think I'll go ahead and be a little more brave here. I might even torch some of the alcohol off of here. It's fairly thick. That can also give you some really strange effects. I wouldn't recommend doing this. I've done it for quite a while now, and I kind of know what's going to happen. So yeah, just don't even do this. But I can heat it up pretty quick here and try to keep moving with my project. I'm getting quite a bit of sparkle in there. Still some alcohol on there. I think we're close enough though. That gave us pretty cool effects. We can actually add alcohol now to push those around. When it's hot, sometimes that works really well. If you want just little drops. You can break the big cells up. Sometimes the big ones get bigger. You can just add all kinds of character to it. Okay, here's the finished product. So you can kind of use that light to look around and see the different dimples in it. So even though it doesn't help much in the video, it's useful for me to see what's going on as it's settling in. So if that looks like a countertop you'd like to have, that's kind of what there is to it, or anywhere in between. So I think I might be silver enough for my people that are wanting an estimate here, so I think I'll definitely take this one to them. Okay, that's it for this one. We'll be doing another one here soon. See what happens.